how did you fetch up with the Jefferson Center, and what led you down this path?
My path to end up in the organization I'm with now really came through a combination of things. I had spent a lot of my time, I grew up in a politically active family, although it's a Democratic family in rural South Dakota. So a Democratic family in rural South Dakota is very different than a lot of Democratic families elsewhere. And because of that, I was in a environment where I really had to learn how to work together and accept and really understand the views of people having minority political opinions and growing up in that environment, but always being active. So after really becoming somewhat burnt out with political organizing and campaign field work, this opportunity...
So you're a recovering political operative.
I think that's a fair way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really came to this because for me, it's finding opportunities to accomplish goals, especially through policy, is something that I've always been drawn to. When I was doing political work, even in college and elsewhere, I was always drawn to state-level races rather than federal races because to me, there was more of a chance being out there as a single person was affecting more in the outcome of that election than it was for all of my kind of peers who were really trying to get up and do the big Senate races or the presidential. That just was always meaningful for me, and I think that translates here because this is a great place to work because our goal is how can we make meaningful contributions and elevate citizens' voices into the kind of the muddy waters that include all of the dynamics that electeds, agency officials, and policymakers have when they're making decisions. Our goal is to bring together people to have substantive recommendations that become a part of that mix and have their voice heard in that way.
Talking here, though, from a public policy perspective, though, for a moment here, you know, there's a large amount of confusion out there in the citizenry. We kind of sense people are not talking to each other enough and anything. We have a section on this program we call Mythbusting.
Yeah.
And is there a myth out there that you can delineate that is false, and do you have any sort of a data or observation to help back that up?
Yeah, so I think there's two things here. One, a report was released in the last couple of weeks that was commissioned out of Sacramento State and one of their Institute for Local Government that reflected the lack of knowledge about public policy matters on a local level. There's a lot of talk that, there's so much that the average citizen doesn't have the capacity to hone in on the details. And this report reflected some of that. People weren't familiar how much, what was the largest investment of their local government. But some of the things that were drawn out is that getting more people involved is somehow detrimental without educating them. And that's kind of at the core of our work, is that's what we seek to do as an organization, is that people do have the capacity and desire to be involved, but there are so many barriers in people's regular everyday lives that stop them. I mean, reading public policy and budgets and fiscal analysis is not going to fit into someone's life who runs a 9-to-5 or two part-time jobs and has a family. That simply is not something that they have the time to do. That doesn't mean that they don't have the desire to act and be active in that capacity, or that they simply don't have the tools to do it. So one of the things that if you look at research on projects like ours, where people do have the opportunity to get involved, they continue to want to after the fact. Yeah. You activate that kind of sense in them that they can do something about it. And I think that really counters the dominant theme that people just don't care and are happy letting things slide and not having anything get done. It's really about awakening that opportunity for people and helping to provide that. One
of the things that, as we're sitting here talking about, I remember seeing something recently. There was a survey that came out, and 4 out of 10 Americans believe that Obamacare has been repealed.
Yeah.
And it's just because they keep hearing about the programs in trouble.